Welcome to the Explainer. From ancient alchemists mixing up bizarre potions to today's biotech billionaires, humans have absolutely always been obsessed with cheating death. But what if the secret to immortality isn't locked away in some futuristic lab? What if it's already out there, swimming silently in our oceans or just hiding in microscopic ponds?
Think about it. What if nature already cured death? Just imagine a world where living creatures easily outlive human empires, completely rewriting the biological rules of life and death as we know them. These eternal animals are basically living time machines, and today we're going to unpack exactly how they pull off the ultimate biological heist.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to start with the actual rules of aging, then explore 3 unbelievable biological hacks: negligible senescence, infinite regeneration, and reversing the clock, before wrapping up with our own human quest for eternal life. Part 1. The rules of aging. Why exactly do we die? The massive baseline we are fighting against here is called senescence. It's not a sudden stop. It's the gradual, unavoidable breakdown of your cells over time. Think of your body like a gigantic library with 30 trillion books. Every single time a book is checked out, pages get a little torn, bindings get a bit weak. Over decades, those microscopic molecular errors just pile up until the library simply can't function anymore. And there is actually a hard biological wall to all this, known as the Hayflick limit. Leonard Hayflick discovered that human cells can typically only divide about 40 to 60 times. Once they hit that limit, they don't just quietly pass away. Nope, they enter a state of senescence, essentially becoming biological zombies that just linger in your tissues, pumping out inflammatory molecules and actively making you age. So what's actually driving this cellular damage at the microscopic level? Well, there are 3 main culprits. First, telomere shortening. Think of telomeres like the little plastic tips, the aglets, on the ends of your shoelaces. Every time a cell divides, those aglets fray and get shorter, acting like a strict countdown timer. Then you've got free radicals, which are basically tiny molecular grenades causing oxidative stress that constantly bombards your DNA. And finally, epigenetic information loss. Over time, the chemical markers that tell your cells how to behave start to fade, meaning your cells slowly forget how to function like they did when you were young. Moving on to hack number 1, negligible senescence, or the extreme slowdown. To put things in perspective, standard human lifespans don't even register next to these outliers. The Greenland shark can live up to 500 years, deepwater black coral passes 4,200 years, and the volcano sponge hits an absolutely mind-boggling 15,000 years. To figure out the age of the Greenland shark, scientists actually carbon-dated specific proteins in their eyes that form before birth and never degrade. They found females swimming in the Arctic today that were literally born before the American Revolution. Crazy, right? So what is their secret? A lot of it comes down to incredibly slow, cold-blooded metabolisms and super stable enzyme activity. But the real magic is written deep in their genes. Take Jonathan, the Galapagos giant tortoise, who is 192 years old. Genomic analysis shows that tortoises like him have extra copies of genes specifically designed to fight off tumors. Plus, their cells are incredibly proactive. Instead of letting damaged cells linger around as those zombies we talked about, their bodies trigger apoptosis, basically a self-destruct button, destroying compromised cells instantly to protect the rest of the body. Which brings us to the fascinating lobster paradox. Unlike our cells, where those telomere shoelaces fray until division permanently stops, lobsters have an incredible biological workaround. They produce an endless supply of an enzyme called telomerase, which continuously repairs and extends those DNA caps. At a cellular level, they basically never age. Ironically, their downfall is usually their own success. They just keep growing forever, and eventually molting their increasingly massive shells just becomes way too physically exhausting for them to survive.
All right, hack number 2, infinite regeneration, the perfect copy.
The key players here absolutely defy belief. Let's look at the tiny freshwater hydra. Dr. Daniel Martinez ran a massive study on them and discovered something unprecedented. They literally show 0 signs of aging over time. None. Their secret is the FOXO gene, which drives this constant, flawless stem cell division, letting them replace damaged tissue infinitely. And the planarian flatworm? Even wilder. Its cellular maintenance is so precise, you could cut a single flatworm into 279 tiny pieces, and every single fragment would flawlessly regenerate into a brand new, fully formed organism with perfect DNA and telomeres. Just incredible. On to hack number 3, reversing the clock, resets and pauses. Meet the immortal jellyfish. Most jellyfish have a pretty standard life. They grow up, reproduce, and die. But when the adult of this specific species faces severe stress, starvation, or injury, it doesn't die. Instead, it collapses into this little blob-like cyst on the seafloor and reverts entirely back to its infant polyp stage, completely ready to start over. Just imagine the implications if every time you experienced a major physical crisis, you could completely reset your biological age to 0 and basically become a toddler again.
Then we have the ultimate biological pause button, cryptobiosis. When things get apocalyptic, microscopic tardigrades, you probably know them as water bears, simply dry out. They completely suspend all their biological processes. In this dormant state, they are basically indestructible. They can survive the literal vacuum of outer space, withstand radiation levels 1,000 times what would kill a human, and endure temperatures from near absolute zero all the way up to 150 degrees Celsius. Decades later, with just a single drop of water, they hit play on their biology again, totally unfazed. Which brings us to Section 5, the human quest to steal nature's secrets. Now, these concepts sound like pure science fiction, but they are firmly anchored in modern lab reality right now. Nobel winner Shinya Yamanaka discovered cellular reprogramming factors that can essentially wipe a cell's memory, reverting it back to a youthful state. Building on that, Harvard's Dr. David Sinclair actually used these Yamanaka factors to restore youthful patterns in elderly mice, effectively reversing their aging markers by 25%. They actually playfully dubbed them supermodel granny mice. It's massive proof that biological age is way more malleable than we ever assumed. So biotech's current battle against aging is basically a grand strategy of mimicking the hydra and the lobster. Telomerase therapy is attempting to restore those fraying DNA caps, but there's a huge biological catch for us. If you give human cells unlimited telomerase, it usually bypasses our safety mechanisms and triggers rampant cancer, not immortality. Meanwhile, you have senolytics, an amazing field entirely dedicated to hunting down and clearing out those zombie cells we talked about, which drops inflammation dramatically. And the holy grail is epigenetic reprogramming, actively trying to reverse cellular age without accidentally setting off uncontrolled growth.
It's really fascinating because we are seeing a total split in how humans are approaching this. On one hand, you have the highly measured, rigorous science of clinical lab trials on gene therapy. On the other, you have tech millionaires taking extreme measures, spending millions a year to track dozens of biomarkers, taking 100 pills a day, and trying unproven stuff like plasma transfusions. It's really just a modern reflection of a very ancient drive. Thousands of years ago, the first Chinese emperor, Qin Shi Huang, literally died from drinking mercury elixirs because he fully believed they'd give him eternal life. The tools have evolved, but that deep human drive is exactly the same.
So as science edges closer and closer to actually stealing nature's secrets, we have to ask a profoundly difficult question. Are we really ready for a world where death is optional? If we unlock eternal life, does it just create some unprecedented social divide where radical life extension is only for the ultra-wealthy? Or does it fundamentally strip away the evolutionary pressure that drove humanity to be what it is today? The biology is already out there, quietly thriving in the deep oceans and tiny ponds. The real question is, what are we going to do when we finally harness it? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the rules of nature.